So greetings, everybody, and welcome. We want to welcome you to another podcast, part of our ongoing series here over at 360 Insights. We're pretty excited today to talk about something near and dear to my heart. My name is Steven Kellam. I'm going to be your host today, and it's about data. And while data may not be the sexiest thing, it surely has a lot to do with really good results, right? So our webinar today is Leveraging Channel Insights for Better Business Decisions. And I'm pretty jazzed today. We've got the folks from SiriusDecisions joining us. And it's an interesting story how this webinar came about. You know, sometimes things just happen for the right reasons. I was at the Tech Exchange in New Orleans a couple of months ago, and I happened to be going into one of the presentations by Stephanie Sisler, and it was really well done. But what really hit me is she was talking about what we're talking about to so many of our clients and so many of our prospects, and what we at 360 Insights think about on a daily basis. And that is, how do you get the data and how do you make actionable items from that really work? I mean, we're an incentives platform over at 360 Insights. And for us, our success and our client success depends so much on the platform, depends so much on the data and the data being right. So we're very excited today to dig into this conversation. Okay, and our guest today, we're also very excited today to have two thought leaders in this space joining us today. First is Maria Chien. Maria is, an industry leader. If you don't know Maria, you should get to know Maria. From my perspective, Maria and her team are one of the bright spots on the channel landscape today. And Maria's got over 20 years of experience in the channel, and so she's a thought leader across this idea and across many ideas in the channel side of things. The nice thing is, too, for those of you who don't know, she also has a fantastic team. I know you know that, Maria. She's got Angela Leach in EMEA, and she's got Kathy Contreras over on the West Coast, both fantastic analysts that really help Maria and her team, I think, really deliver one of the deepest and widest channel programs expertise in the space. So I want to say hi, Maria.
Hi, Steven. Thank you. And thank you for acknowledging my team. They are the best. And I absolutely concur with your thoughts.
No, I mean, it's rare. I got to admit this, talking to both of those, both Angela and Kathy, sometimes I have to really think to catch up. So yeah, you got some great folks. Now, we also have Bryan Spitzer with us today, and Bryan Spitzer is from 360 Insights. Frankly, Bryan is probably the best rounded incentive thinker that I know in the market today. And a lot of that has to do with exposure that he has and has had over years around incentives and solutions, all the way from the consumer side, where you're talking about a program that has 200,000 end users, to B2B rebates, to SPIF programs, and even into high-tech, complex India platforms. And what I think separates Bryan and makes him such a valuable asset for this conversation today is he also takes all of these incentives and plugs them into everything from PRM to CRM to ERP. And boy, there's a whole lot of data out there, right? And Bryan is able to take all that, coalesce it together, and help provide some valuable insights. So I think we've got two great people today to go through some really good content. Oh, Bryan, go ahead and say hello. Sorry, pardon me.
That's all right. Thank you, Steven. It's wonderful to be here, and I'm excited to get into this conversation on data. It's definitely near and dear to my heart, something I see a lot of passion for.
Okay. All right, as we look at the agenda, I think one thing we're going to do is we're going to try to make this conversational. I think it's really important when you get into this sort of subject that you not only talk about theoretically what are the challenges, you dig into some frameworks and how problems can be solved. And I think another key element to that we're going to bring today is, what are people doing out there? What has been successful? And just as importantly, what maybe have been some of the challenges that have been out there going on as well? Because look, there's a lot of trial and error going on in this. And I think that lends to a discussion sort of atmosphere, and we're going to do our best to make that happen today. As a housekeeping note, as we go through this, it's hard to make it completely interactive with the audience as we go through this, but please feel free to submit your questions in the chat window as we go through this, and we'll get to them all as we wrap it up at the end. We got a lot of content here on the agenda plate, and we should be able to get through it all once again, we're scratching the surface on this. I could look at the channel data, right? The first item there. And I think Bryan and Maria agree we could literally do, we surely could do a bunch of podcasts. We could definitely do a webinar, simply what is that to date and where things are. And I think that's what draws us all to this sort of environment, so we can have those discussions. What it means to be data informed. This is really where we're going to get to the meat of it. From our perspective, and in a lot of our conversations with you folks out there, there's a big gap between collecting the data, having insights, and then really doing the analytics that allow you to make good decisions and drive measurable action. So we'll spend a lot of time in what it means to be data informed. We're going to dig into the common channel pain points. I think this is really nice for us to expose this in this sort of format for a couple of reasons. One is it's showing that there are folks out there like SiriusDecisions and 360 Insights who are listening and taking this information in. And I think the second piece is you are not alone out there. So many of these pain points you're all facing, and if we can get them grouped together, and I think Maria's going to go through this in a really nice framework, we can all sort of look at it through maybe the same lens, or at least a similar lens, and really take advantage of seeing that in one place. And then measuring the program performance. I mean, that's a super hot topic. Everybody talks about measuring. It's a key consideration. And we're going to show you a framework today, because once again, there's one thing to talk about measurement and how important it is. There's another thing to do a framework. And in today, we're going to talk about folks who have done it successfully and what we can learn from that and how we can replicate that for future success. And then matching insights and results to key personas. I think this is a great one, and we're going to kind of tie it up at the end on this. So many of the conversations I'm having today, and Maria's having, Bryan having, are, okay, we've gone through all of this effort and we've done all this digging. How do we make sure that we're getting the right data to the right group and the right individuals? So once again, we can maximize the value of everything that we're pulling together. So that's what we're going to go through today, folks. We're really excited to have you. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Maria.
Great, thank you, Steven. When I think about data and the channel today, this image came to my mind. And it's really, how often have you described your programs, your partner relationships, performance, feeling good versus feeling confident? And things like our partners like us better, I'm using my air quotes here, the program is working, and partners seem to be generating leads. If we use incentives, I'm sure partners will take us up on our offer. Most channel marketers fail to define the right reporting use cases and requirements as part of that demand planning process, so more of the upfront work. And as a result, many channel marketers over-rely on vanity metrics to create the appearance of success, or post-mortem metrics that don't offer really that insight into what to do next. Measuring the success of partner marketing really enables suppliers to identify and address competency and performance gaps. And channel marketers need to pursue analytics solutions that are tied to clearly defined workflows and outcomes, not just a general desire for better information. So what is the key to building, executing, and managing an effective channel marketing strategy? It's to analyze and report actionable information that drives decisions for channel marketers and their key stakeholders. In addition to its own reporting needs, channel marketing has to communicate with these various stakeholders, which can include the executive team and sales leaders. And from a reporting perspective, each stakeholder group is a distinct audience with its own concerns about the channel business. And that can be from channel recruiting and engagement to driving revenue growth through the channel. B2B suppliers often struggle to determine whether their partners' marketing efforts have hit the mark. I don't know how many of you guys struggle with this, but along with marketing enablement programs that improve the accuracy of partner marketing, suppliers must establish metrics to track the results of these efforts. So reporting on channel marketing's performance is going to be most successful when channel marketers work with either their channel operations or marketing operations colleagues to reach out to those key stakeholders in each of the audiences and really ask, what business questions do you need answered about channel marketing performance? Organizations that are unable to connect the dots cannot accurately assess performance and determine what actions they should be taking. That's the insight piece. So today, we will jointly discuss what it's like to be data informed from metrics to results, and even hear some examples of lessons learned and the impacts that these can have. So, guys, we've got a lot of data out there, but who cares if it doesn't turn into action? What really counts in channel data is reporting on data that addresses the business questions that the organization requires. From marketing automation, channel marketing platforms, partner relationship management, channel data management, channel incentive management, web and portal platforms, all of these technology solutions, we can get a lot of numbers, and this is goodness. But what do they all mean? For those of us who are pulling data to report on marketing performance, knowing what counts is the major challenge. So what we want to underscore with you is that you have to make the numbers you report relevant to the people who get those reports. You have lots of different stakeholders, again, the executive team, sales leaders, even your fellow channel marketers, and different aspects of the partner business are important to those stakeholders. Recruiting, engagement in your programs, driving leads and opportunities, but that's often difficult to navigate. What we found is that reporting is most successful when the operations or analytics team reaches out to their stakeholders and asks them, what are the business questions you need answered about how channel marketing is performing? I said that, again, to really underscore the importance. The first step in the reporting and data process is going to be to identify the best possible criteria to effectively measure program and partner performance. So while the specific metrics may vary company to company, and historical channel partner performance data from a variety of industries is going to show results either earlier or later in the process, you really have got to look at it from a number of different areas. You've got to look at it from the revenue, pipeline, and ROI category. You've got to look at it from the effectiveness and efficiency category. And you've got to look at it from the engagement and ROI category. It's only then where you're going to be able to answer which programs are performing and which ones are working, how can I improve performance of my partners, and will my objectives be met based on current program performance? That's going to be critical.
Awesome, thanks, Maria. So I want to spend 2 seconds just talking about some of the things that we're seeing, hearing, and as we start to think about this world of incentives, and I'm looking specifically here at 1- and 2-step distribution, so something that has indirect influence. You really have two challenges, and they're visibility and differentiation. And they might be differentiation before visibility and vice versa, depending on where you're going to market and what you're trying to do. But often you'll find, and these are probably some of the channels you see, right? You have distributors, you have sales associates, you have consumers, and you have your dealers and your partners, et cetera. But what we find then is they start running in these siloed worlds where the information, whether it's the vendors, the programs, the budgets, and then ultimately the data, don't ever have a chance to even try to talk to each other or connect. And I want to spend just 2 seconds here. So as we think about this, right, there was an article actually, now it's 2 years ago, from The Economist that talks about the new oil that's greasing this economy, our companies and our lives. Surprise, surprise, it's data. It's no longer oil. So the new oil is actually data. And then just to kind of reiterate on something that Maria just showed, on all that immense data that we have and the goodness we have from it, there were 5 companies that actually made up more profits than all the oil companies combined in 2017. And that's even becoming even more differentiated, and the stretch is getting even longer between that. So this is a really important, you need to understand how to get the data right, bring in the right data, and as we walk through this framework, we're gonna show you how to do that.
And that's great. I love the different partner types and looking at it from a different structure and ecosystem. And so moving into what does it mean to be data informed, we have to understand that creating and implementing a channel data strategy is going to be an ongoing process, not a single one-time effort. So what data is critical to delivering on channel goals and objectives? Well, looking at that, we've got to turn to where are the areas that we can access information and data, and what does that mean? and what's the value that it brings to the organization. So data is really a collection of facts and collected observations without any further analysis. Information is really reporting what happened, and then monitoring data, what's currently happening. When we move up the value stream to knowledge, it's about analyzing and interpreting information, why it happened. Now we're getting into the more diagnostic aspect. Moving all the way into insights, it's about trending and discovering hidden patterns. What is likely to happen? That gets very predictive. That's when it gets really powerful. And ultimately, what these insights should do should be inform the actions that you're going to take. So you leverage the insights to turn data into effective actions, answering the question, what should we do? The importance of being data-driven is frequently talked about, but really few organizations have a clear understanding of what this concept really means. A data-driven organization is going to identify the insights that it needs data to inform, effectively manage its data, and then it empowers its team to put the data to use. So what are some of those common channel data pain points? Well, while the channel is going to provide you scale and growth, strategies for selling through partners may distance you, the supplier, from the buyer. So channel organizations often rely on sales out reporting to collect that partner sell-through customer information to help fill that gap, and also channel marketing ROI and program information and data. Unfortunately, that's often too late. It could be incorrect or in an unusable format, and suppliers wind up with an incomplete view of where their investments and programs are going and who got them there. So not even knowing which ones were the most successful. For instance, look at POS, point of sale data. How often is that a month and a half after the sale? And then think about the siloed. Where is it? How do we access it? Is it in our PRM? Is it in our SFA or CRM? Is it our channel marketing management platform or through partner marketing automation? Is it in our map? How often do we get information from channel data management and incentive management so that we know how to incentivize and push those desired partner behaviors? Think about accuracy. Different information from different systems, from different spreadsheets to teams in different businesses. There's no closed loop reporting, no one single source of truth. And then volume, it's either too much or too little. And I think what Steven was reacting to when he came to the technology exchange in New Orleans was the title of our presentation. Too much data, too little insight. That's going to be critical. So what does this mean? And what are the problems that it causes? Well, some of the consequences of this is that you have a lack of understanding of your customers. You're distanced from them and your partner buyer behaviors and the drivers for that. You don't know which partners are engaged, which incentives drove the desired behavior. You can't access those insights to focus on those programmatic elements that are working, and you're probably investing on the wrong partners. You have an inability to measure the return on channel investment. You can't monitor the incentive program progress. Is it working? Is it not? Are they taking us up and utilizing our incentives even? You have an inability to measure the true performance of your program of a lead of an opportunity, and you tend to miss opportunities. So when we look at this and we think about where are we getting data and relying too heavily on a certain kind of data like channel sales out data, that's again often too late. And when you think about the channel platforms that provide and improve the data collection process, this increases the content and the accuracy and saves time and money. So you get timely information, you get accurate information, and you start to move towards that one single source of truth.
Hey, Maria,
so
I have a question for you.
Sure.
Hey, I want to ask you, so just looking at that, do you find that there is one, let's say, data point or keynote that they look at to try to do self-identification of that misaligned focus? I think that's a really interesting piece. I was wondering if through talking to your customers, if you're finding one that's just a common thread. If you want to self-identify why you're focusing on the wrong partners, maybe here's where you start.
Yeah, I will say that the big one is we tend to focus on volume, and I don't want to say volume is bad because we love volume. We want to keep volume going. When I'm not talking about volume of data, I'm talking about focusing on the data that you're getting and the partners that are driving volume. But there's a value estimate to this, and if you can get those partners that are engaged in your certification programs, that are accessing your demand programs, that are asking for your incentives and leveraging your incentives to start seed for demand, you may be missing and focusing on the wrong set of partners and missing an opportunity to develop a market and to access those customers that are either net new or cross-sell, upsell opportunities. And you won't know that because you're distanced from the customer, and you won't know it until when the finish line results. You won't know it until you don't have the pipeline opportunities in the closed won business. And so really identifying and taking not only the data, but the insights, what that leading and lagging indicators tell you, the story that these are the partners we should be investing in for growth and potential based on our go-to-market strategy. There, you're aligning data to take up on specific actions and dictating where you can have some success. So when you think about that, I just gave you an example of using data to gain information and insights to direct your actions. Think about, what if your organization was data informed? Because becoming data informed truly delivers on the promise of data informed decision making, like I just described, focusing on those partners that have potential to meet our growth goals. But it requires moving to a data-centric, data-first development approach and aligning that to your key stakeholders. So imagine your C-level executive truly validating partner contribution and profitability, really being able to see the value that the channel is bringing and being able to accurately allocate budget and resources, and perhaps increase the budget and resources that they align to channel. Brian, I don't know what you're seeing from C-level executives.
Yeah, seeing quite the same, to be honest. And interestingly enough, I think, we'll talk about this in a minute, but they're all asking me the same three questions too. And it's uncanny. You go in and before you even get to the meeting, you typically know that for three questions they're going to ask, because really no one's figured out how to really provide, like you said, that sea of data that's there, how to provide that in a meaningful way, especially at that C level.
Yeah, being able to be armed with the answers to those three questions, that's data informed. So imagine your SVP of channels and being able to use data to, again, I'm going to go back to the example I just gave, identify and segment the right partners based on value and growth potential to really focus not only your coverage model from a sales perspective, but your marketing activities and those programmatic elements. Who should be receiving our incentives? Because that's what's really going to drive growth. When we look at from a channel sales perspective, making sure that it's not just those partner types that you're looking at, but those right partners, right? So understanding and facilitating and aligning those high-touch activities like joint business planning, like quarterly reviews, and really monitoring the health of those partner pipelines so that if they start to go offline or they fall off the radar or they're not performing and you're looking at the right set of data, you can start to apply those programmatic elements, and it'll also dictate those actions that you need to take. And then channel marketing. God, wouldn't it be nirvana to identify the right programs, align the right incentives at the most optimal time to drive desired partner behavior, and truly feel confident versus feel good that leads were being routed to the right partner? I mean, could you imagine? That's really, truly data informed. Brian, why don't you walk us through a little bit of leveraging those insights and identifying a competitive advantage?
Yeah, absolutely. And I wanted to walk through this visual because I think, nothing kind of shows this better than the way that this visual aligns. And really what most companies do and where you should start, I think we talked about this before, Maria, is reporting, right? And you're looking back, and even data mining, you're still looking back. And there's a ton of value in the looking back of information. But that's typically, it's not enough. if you're trying to be differentiated, if you're trying to break down those two challenges we talked about, real visibility and how to differentiate ourselves amongst seas of sameness, or whatever that looks like for you, and you have trouble doing so, looking back just simply isn't enough. What you're trying to do is figure out, how do we start looking forward, right? How do we model? How do we optimize? We're going to talk through a little bit about that in a very prescriptive way in just a moment, but that's what we're all trying to get to. But the chasm exists because we see this split. And I think, Maria, you summed this up perfectly at the beginning when you were talking about how to actually make this reporting successful is when you ask your stakeholders, what do they actually care about? So do you have the organization of data to even ask the right questions? If you're not reporting and you're not mining successfully, you may want to get to an optimization and predictive, but just know that until you figure out how to know what's happened, how to know why it happened, it's really hard to know what's going to happen or how it could happen, and nearly impossible, right? And so we do this, we have this idea around consolidation, and we think that consolidating that information into a place where you can leverage it all together starts to bring, you know, what we've seen in the past is very much a way to take it from looking back to looking forward.
I love it's not enough, that concept. Data on its own is not enough. And I love the movement towards what is better, what is best in class, and how can we get there. And so really answering some of that is, you know, what counts for whom? The key to good measurement reporting is understanding the data needs of your audiences. So it's all about answering the business questions that drive their decision making. So the first step of good performance measurement is to distinguish between what is done and the results produced. Channel marketing measurement focuses on how to report the results of the work done. We actually recommend using relevant metrics from the 4 metric classes of the SiriusDecisions metric spectrum that you're seeing up on the slide right now to connect channel marketing activity to the impact on the business. Each class that we're going to go through is useful as long as it matches the needs and the objectives of the intended audiences. So what you're hearing is audience-centric, you know, focus on that. And although that not every report or dashboard is going to need to include metrics from all 4 classes, this is also going to be helping you identify, don't just report on it because you can. Really focus on where your intended audiences want the information. To your point before, come prepared to answer those 3 top questions. So as we go through from the bottom up, let's talk about readiness metrics. These metrics show how well channel marketing is prepared to generate results that meet its goals. For example, are training assets ready? Have partners been segmented by type? Have joint marketing plans been created with partners? In isolation, readiness metrics have limited value, but when you put them in the context, they provide critical insight into how marketing's operational foundation affects the performance and efficiency of market-facing activities. We also see that these are one of the most neglected type of metrics. So then moving up to activity metrics, these metrics we like to report on. These metrics quantify what was done, but not the results. So example would be 10 training programs have been executed. 50 partner co-marketing assets are posted to the portal. This is going to be the most tactical metric class, and metrics in this class indicate that plans are being executed and which actions have been completed. When we go up a level to output, these are the actual and expected outcomes of the activities. So 80% of partners engaged in training, 100 partners were certified. Outputs can be the result of a single tactic, so maybe inquiries generated by one co-marketing program, or the combined result of multiple tactics. So for instance, the total number of marketing qualified leads generated for partners from trade shows, webinars, or inbound traffic. It's not reasonable to expect each output to be directly or wholly tied to specific actions. So that's a little caveat. And then the last one, impact, is the most strategic. So this is absolutely where we're going to want to get to, and we're going to want to present and provide to executive and senior leadership. This is the most strategic metric class, and it really commands the most attention on dashboards because of that reason. But instead of describing tactical effectiveness, impact metrics are stated in terms of the organization's business objectives. So let me give you an example. Revenue growth, activating new partners, improving partner wallet share. These are all the results of a complex series of actions taken across an organization and are therefore highly summarized. And it's really those impact metrics that you're going to want to report, but you can see collectively where you're starting to see by definition that some metrics are going to be more important than others to different intended audiences. So let me give you an example of that, right? So for those of us, and it's most of us here on the phone that do business through channel partners, finding out exactly what happened to leads that are sent to the channel is always a challenge, right? So how many of those leads did your partners follow up on? How many turned into sales? What's the ROI of each program that generated those leads? So getting to a single source of truth takes participation, planning, and readiness. And I'm underscoring readiness because on the previous slide I had talked about that as one of the elements that is overlooked in planning and executing programs. So you need to establish KPIs. You need to plan for that. You have to set a minimum ROI requirement. And then in the case of partner marketing and partner marketing incentives, tie those results to reimbursement. Make those outcomes, right, those results tied to the incentive that you're using to support positive growth. And link them to a process that you may have in-house. So here, from a channel marketing ROI perspective, I'm giving you some ideas of activities, email marketing, events, telemarketing campaigns, some minimum ROI metrics, and then some additional metrics that you may want to include. So these are best-in-class program measurement examples around closed-loop reporting. Giving you another example, which would be near and dear to folks' hearts, is incentives, right? You must periodically reassess the incentives that you offer and determine whether they're having the intended effect on partner behavior and results. I always say you should not fund what you can't measure, and even with incentives, you need to make sure that you're tying them to the right activities. So you need to ask the following questions. What has been put in place for the incentives for growth through partnerships? What steps will be taken to define success and ensure ROI visibility on MDF spend? That visibility is going to be critical. As your partnerships improve and mature with those individual growth partners, what's their participation in marketing activities? Are they doing joint branding activities? As they get more and more sophisticated, are they creating demand on their own? So you need to accurately and timely look at data, because that's going to reduce overpayments and delayed payments of partner benefits that require sales out validation. It also is going to reduce supplier costs and improve the partner experience. Again, big impact that you want to report back to senior leadership. So you can use real-time performance data to motivate partners to stretch to new targets and drive additional short-term growth. This is really using that data and insights to take actionable results. But how are we going to get started? How do we look and map and tailor reports to stakeholder needs? The key to good measurement reporting is going to really be the understanding of the data needs of each of those individual audiences, and then answering the business questions that drive their decision making. To consistently match measurement reporting and practices to the needs of the business and its audience, you're going to have to define a process for developing marketing measurement. And what we're going to share with you right now is a bit of that process. The 3 stages of this aligned measurement process strategy are initiation. This involves formalizing the measurement initiative, securing organizational support, and kicking off the measurement work. You need to define the purpose of each reporting deliverable. Is this an executive view? So say for quarterly business reports. Are program managers using it in a campaign review? All of knowing your audience and how they're going to use it is going to really help define the purpose. Going into discovery. Among the biggest shortcomings of measurement initiatives is that they do not achieve their expected impacts. And it's usually an inefficient understanding of the user's needs, so really not engaging the audience. So discovery is going to help ensure that the user needs are uncovered and conclusions, the right conclusions, are drawn based on those needs. So you need to engage your audience, identify their business question. And this is also going to help you describe these in precise terms. So talk to them, conduct interviews, probe into what kinds of decisions they'll make with the data. Don't just provide data for data's sake, but really do that discovery to help drive that improved decision making. And then lastly, alignment. Once the audience reporting needs are really truly understood, the alignment stage is going to really translate these priorities into well-defined reporting deliverables. So measurement teams are going to prioritize what to produce in each of the reporting deliverables. So look at format, content, metrics, and then align those to the decision maker's needs. When you prioritize these elements of measurement strategy, you're going to be able to deliver measurement faster and more efficiently. But talking about tailoring reports to stakeholder needs is one thing. Let's take a look at the top 5 to 6 metrics that are important to each audience. And Bryan, I'm probably going to ask you to jump in and provide an example of that and what that looks like. So if we get started, I mean, it really comes down to the power in understanding your audience and making sure you align to that audience, and really map to, what they want to know about channel marketing performance. So I apologize, there's a little bit of technical difficulty. Bryan, I don't know if you can advance to the next slide. So what I'm going to talk about next, I'm going to ask Bryan to jump in, is to talk about what do executives want to know about channel marketing performance. So one of the things that we have to understand and have to examine is that executive dashboards are really meant to be I think somebody advanced a little bit too far. Let me try to go back. They are really meant to be a summary view of performance, right? It's all about what are channel marketing's goals that support the company-wide initiative and their growth strategies. So every organization's objectives are going to be unique and many change year to year. So you need to leverage your channel to build market share, maybe to improve profitability or expand into new territories. Others may be focusing on improving channel productivity by enabling partners to sell their offerings. But for each objective, channel marketing has to demonstrate its program's impact, again, remember, the most strategic metric class, in support of business objectives. So here are the following typical questions that channel marketing must answer to the executive team. How well is the channel contributing to corporate pipeline and revenue goals? Pipeline or revenue contribution is going to be an important performance metric that is common to these executive dashboards. And we must demonstrate that channel marketing is helping to source opportunities for the channel, as well as supporting partners' ability to source revenue on its own. And when we provide this revenue contribution and align it to the organization's growth strategies, we need to make sure the views that we're providing might be by region, by partner type, by customer segment, by industry, that are going to align to the sales views on revenue generation. The next question is going to be about how is channel marketing improving partner productivity? This is a question that I would have loved to have a stronger answer in my practitioner days. And it's about, are we focusing on increasing the number of productive partners? Are we driving new products through the channel? Are we addressing a channel skills issue? We have to demonstrate how partner engagement and our programmatic elements are supporting these objectives. The next question is, how are we getting a return on the channel marketing investment? Huge question. So at a holistic level, we're going to want to be able to prove that every dollar invested in our programs is driving a good return. But rather than me talk in general terms, Bryan, why don't you tell us an example and weave a little bit of a story around what executives want to hear around metrics and data?
Yeah, I think there's a really good one that comes to mind. And I would start by saying, in the 2 different conversations I've had where this really aligned as well, replace how with why. they ask me why. Why is the channel contributing to corporate pipeline? Why are they getting marketing support growth? And why is it channel that's driving performance, right? So they want to know why it's happening, which I think if you think back to the chasm, even executives right now are looking backwards. And that's kind of where they start the conversation. So a couple of examples from my experience, a large manufacturer and a large retailer who could be nothing alike other than the fact that they both have lots of revenue in very matrixed organizations, both asking these exact same questions. And then the other thing they would ask me is they would say, and can you tell me quickly, what are the 3 things I could be doing today, tomorrow, that I'm not doing? And what's funny is I think at least at the executive level and at the leadership level, there's a good understanding today that just having a dashboard and visualizing data well isn't enough, like we've already talked about. What you need to do is be able to figure out how can you tell them 3 things they're not doing today quickly. And I remember even one of them saying to me, and I don't need to take one of my data scientists to spend the next 10 hours mining through the data. I understand we have all the data. I don't know how to leverage the data. The data today is not actionable for me. So what we asked them to do, and this is one of those customers, we said, you're not running all your incentives with us today, and that's all right. But I would encourage you to bring all the data in. Bring it all into the platform where you are running your incentives. And I can start to get you answers to why channel is contributing to corporate pipeline, why performance is being driven by channel, and how the growth is actually being attributed to channel, because we're bringing in all the external sources. And I think when you look at data platforms that you want to use to do visualization, they need to be flexible enough to bring in data from everywhere. All those places you talked about, Maria, in that sea of data that we showed, if you can't bring them into a single source, you're going to still keep asking these questions how, you're going to keep asking why, but you're not going to get any answers because you haven't made the data actionable. I think that's one of the things that I've seen from that level for sure.
Absolutely, and I love the focus on making the data actionable. And so when we move down into, okay, from all of the data and metric classes, what do sales leaders want to know? When we think about that, it's what metrics are important. So sales dashboards are going to provide that quarterly review update on channel marketing's contribution to channel goals and business objectives. These dashboards are really going to show more of a current state against goals or expectations. And so the key metrics are also going to demonstrate channel health. How healthy is your channel? How are they producing? So the following are typical questions that channel marketing is going to have to answer for their sales leaders. And it's how much is the channel contributing to partner pipeline and revenue? What are the actuals against planned partner pipeline growth? How many partners are active in your programs? How does performance vary by partner segmentation and approach? So when you think about that, you're thinking about what are the registered opportunities of deal velocity, who's performing and complying in program and processes, how much are they sourcing from a pipeline perspective? And that's really going to be what the sales leaders are going to be asking, really about some more short-term goals and setting those expectations, and are we going to reach those expectations? Bryan, what are you seeing from your end around what sales leaders want to know?
I think those 4 questions right there, you're hitting it exactly where I've seen, most sales leaders asking. The one thing I would also add to this too is, and this is where I think, valuable data platforms really come into play, and we talk about flexibility and quick visualization that tells me things I care about. You're starting to create focus. And what the sales leader typically is asking is, this is where we want to connect with, whether it's our customers or the distributors we work with our customers. And if we can get the information into their hands, let's say you could do that on an iPad, right? The next time you go into a meeting, you're not coming in with reports. You're not coming in trying to have a conversation with them, pouring through lines of data or showing them, hey, you're 5% low here, but your sales are up by 10%. What if you could visually just say, here are the 3 things I know you care about. and we're doing great in number 1 and number 2, but number 3, you're down 15%. Let's look at what maybe even, winners in that category are doing to make that happen. This is where we're seeing it start to connect to the ecosystem, right? So the executive is looking for all of that data at the level to say, how do I make better strategic decisions? The sales leader is where we start to see this become interactive within their channel community.
I love that. Connect to the ecosystem and start to create focus. To me, that feeds into the coverage model and the subsequent engagement approaches, right? So where's sales going to cover one-to-one, one-to-few from a partner coverage standpoint, and where's marketing going to jump in and cover from an engagement approach that one-to-many and solve for that? I love that focus. So moving into what's really near and dear to my heart is, what do channel marketers want to know, right? And so what metrics are going to be important to channel marketers? And channel marketing dashboards are typically going to go much more deeper into the details of specific program elements. To measure the strategic impact, channel marketing is going to demonstrate, 1, contribution to pipeline and revenue, and then share what was delivered at the sales QBR to drive alignment. And I think that's a missing piece. We talk about data being in silos. We don't want to perpetuate sales and marketing being in silos. So we want to make sure that what is shared at sales and what's important to sales, channel marketing understands, again, to match that engagement and programmatic support of the sales coverage model and partner segmentation. And because KPIs should really truly align with the marketing and business goals, your metrics may vary by company. So you got to show the metrics that really demonstrate clear gains, whether it's going to be gains in inquiries, sales, conversions, maybe incentive utilization, certification achievements, or customer value. And the following questions are really typical questions that channel marketing is going to need to answer to their channel marketing colleagues. So maybe, are partners working the leads that we pass them? That's critically important. How much demand is flowing through partners? And then how many partners are engaged, active, and producing? These are going to be critical questions that channel marketing is going to want to look at and analyze and understand in order to take some action based on that data that's supplied. Bryan, I don't know if you have an example on channel marketing, but can't wait. I'm all ears. Can't wait to hear it.
Yeah, I have quite a few. This is my path as well. So what's interesting, though, I believe, recently anyway, is the idea of test and learn. And when you start talking about, these platforms, right, we've been discussing at the high level, at the strategic level, we take it down one step, and then we start thinking about all this rich, granular data that you can leverage. It's really being able to do something like test and learn, like you talked about, getting to that nirvana. A platform that gives you test and learn allows you to get to the nirvana because you don't have to boil the ocean. You can take a small step, a calculated step, like you talked about, Maria, having an understanding of what that goal is you're trying to accomplish. Maybe you just want to check out 5% of the audience, or you found an outlier where they seem on the surface to be 20% more valuable in a partner index score of some kind. Let's find out if that's true, right? So we can start to test and learn how that works. Because once you've got something you can do timely with those tests, you can start to become a differentiator. And instead of just looking back, this is where we start to look forward. It's the marketer that actually begins that journey of looking forward with the data because they have the access to more of it. And plus they also, they actually want to see more of it, right? They want to get to that granular level. So this is where I really think you start to turn the tide on how do you go from looking back to a company looking forward, and then ultimately leveraging something like artificial intelligence and machine learning. Without being able to test and learn, it's really hard to take that leap. And this, the test and learn framework, in my opinion, provides a very easy way for you to kind of dip your toe in and decide, this is the right path, and then take the results and test again.
Yeah. I knew you were going to have a great example for channel marketing, and you did not disappoint. I love channel marketing and the marketers because we've invested in different data programs and platforms and sourcing, really leading that charge from, and I love it, from not looking backwards, but leading that charge to looking forward. So really, really great example. Thank you. But what goes beyond reporting? I mean, we talk about the dashboard development. We talked about the different audiences. Why don't you walk us through a little bit about how you can help customers go beyond just the reporting aspect?
Yeah, absolutely. And it, really you think about this, what does that maturity look like? It really starts with a strategy. We've talked about that quite a bit. And, if you're really getting into a place where you want to get to predictive analytics, I'm going to argue data science needs to become part of this conversation in some fashion. You need to develop a strategy with data scientists who, really what they've already done is figured out what are these frameworks we should leverage, these KPIs, these hypotheses, if you will, that we want to test into the market. Once you get through that, you can take this framework and get right into predictive analytics. That second piece, though, for me, cleansing and consolidation, is what really creates the ability to do accurate test and learn. If you have dirty data, there's no way you're ever going to get to a place where you're going to get this nice, clean output on the other side that says, here's what we should do at scale now that we've tested with 5%. So I sort of look at that as being one of the key points, is figuring out how to cleanse and consolidate. And then, like I talked about, working with platforms who do some of that for you, right? I mean, that's really what you want to align to, is platforms that can do cleansing and consolidation for you with flexibility to bring in data from everywhere, anywhere and everywhere that you think we can make a difference. And I'm going to show you just a quick example of what some of that might look like. So this is just another visualization. We saw earlier with Maria's slide around all the typical types of data. One other visualization of that, and we start to put it into some sense of framework, right? So we still have all this disparate data just living in an ecosystem. And as we start to begin to actualize that, it starts to form into, these constructs, POS and PRM, ERPs, NDS, TCMA, those types of platforms, including other platforms, DMPs, et cetera. There's a host of data that can go in to helping predict, create the prediction for channel data. And if you're able to leverage sources like this, I think you're really starting to become a differentiated, looking at this in a very differentiated way, where you can actually do these tests and learns. And maybe you only get 3/4 of the data, maybe you only get 2/3, whatever it might be. Just get in and try it, but make sure that you're trying it using a prescriptive method with a potential goal, right, and an outcome in mind before you get into this.
Absolutely. I love all of these things put together in a format by platform. It literally takes that slide that I had, all those different things that we could measure, and puts it into a thoughtful, intentional strategy. So I love that. So what can you do now? Well, leaving this webcast and going out into your organizations, channel marketing, again, you're going to lead that charge. You need to assess those key processes and determine what's most important, and then leverage data to understand performance, trends, and opportunities so that you can improve upon it, right? So not only just dictates actions, but improvements. Channel sales, you're going to have to really help get leadership support for truly becoming data informed, right? You have a huge host of data that you have access to, and use it to analyze and proactively drive your business goals, matching and aligning channel marketing's efforts to those goals. And operations, it's really about investments in tools and capabilities and processes, just what we saw on the last slide. So what are the business requirements we need, and what are the tools and processes to support that? So team up with your counterparts in marketing and sales on those key reporting requirements, and make sure that you have a platform or a data source to supply those. Any last thoughts, Bryan, from you on what organizations should do leaving today's webcast?
I have one, and we've talked about it a bit, and I'm going to reiterate this, but I think to leverage data successfully, just start. Find a focus goal. If you get to test and learn, fantastic. You don't have to start there, right? Start by figuring out something focused that you want to measure, and then once you have actionable data, you've got this wonderful canvas to provide test and learn, and eventually getting to things like using machine learning and AI to help you drive future decisions.
That's great. Well said. Start now. This is not a vision for the future. This is what organizations should be doing today. It's a business imperative.
All right, I think it's time we, hey, Steven, jumping back in here. Time we wrapped it up. Maria, thank you. Fantastic content and information. Bryan, thank you for the insight. And I love it, right? Start now. I think, didn't you say measure everything or don't do anything you can't measure? I'm pretty sure
don't fund what you cannot measure, yes.
Don't fund what you can't measure. I completely agree. So everybody, thank you for joining us today. Maria and Bryan, thank you. By the way, we want to wrap this up by saying, please join us all at the SiriusDecisions Summit 2019 in Austin, Texas. Obviously, it's a great event. We're going to continue this conversation, a lot of conversation around data, and 360 Insights will be there as well as the sponsor, and we really look forward to seeing everybody. Please come by and join us at the marketplace. And obviously, if you know Maria, you can see Maria and her team. Once again, Angela and Kathy and everybody else that supports that super channel team that you have there. Everybody get a chance to talk to them as well. So we're excited for this event. We hope we see a lot of folks there. And once again, thank you folks for joining us. We really appreciate your time. Look forward to seeing you again soon at a podcast or webinar coming your way. And we will make sure that we get some emails and follow-ups out to you and answer any of the questions that came through as well and respond to those through email as well. So everybody have a great day. Stay warm. Be safe. Thank you.